DePaul University is corrupt. I was a nursing student at DePaul University until they illegally dismissed me because of their own corruption. My complaint was sealed, my voice was silenced, but the truth remains documented. Survivors demand accountability. The public must see this, and the FBI must investigate. February 13th, 2025, pathophysiology class. During a pathophysiology class, Professor Rebecca Barron told the class about her uncle Raymond. She said he had diabetes, was not all there, was embarrassing to be around, wore diapers, and needed her to administer his insulin. She ended by saying, "He's dead now." This mirrored private family conversations about my own grandfather, Raymond, who is alive but had recently spoken about expecting to die soon. A student behind me whispered, "Raymond," reinforcing the mimicry. This is not random. It was staged to cause psychological distress and simulate surveillance inside the classroom. February 14th, 2025, clinical rotation registration. The very next day, when our class was supposed to register for clinical rotations together, Professor Mary Bowman sent a group text at 7:09 a.m. saying, "I had a death in the family." This cancellation happened on the exact day registration opened, isolating me from my peers and sabotaging my ability to register for my preferred clinical section. Can we investigate Professor Barron's and Professor Bowman's stories? Barron spoke about an uncle named Raymond who was dead now on February 13th. Bowman claimed a family death on February 14th. The timing is too precise to be coincidence. I believe these narratives were coordinated to mimic private family dialogue and to sabotage my clinical registration. February 15th, 2025, formal complaint. On February 15th, 2025, my mom formally emailed DePaul's president and dean of students documenting this incident and other harassment patterns. The administration was fully aware of the psychological targeting, emotional disruption, and institutional complicity, and they failed to act. Sexual inappropriateness by faculty. Professor Bowman repeatedly crossed boundaries. In one lab, she told students to examine each other's. In another class, she described viewing a pic sent by a friend and discussed it openly in front of students. On April 29th, 2025, in Community Health, she presented slides describing sexual exploration between children, including a disturbing example of a 4-year-old asking another 4-year-old for. Let's investigate and ask Professor Bowman why she used this as an example. I also experienced unfair grading during a final lab assessment. We had to memorize and prepare for a head-to-toe assessment that took us the entire quarter to master. On the day of the demonstration, my partner struggled to remember several skills. The professor gave her hints and even complimented her, saying she was born to be a nurse. When it was my turn, I performed each skill correctly. When I finished, the professor told me, "You looked nervous." Two very contradictory assessments between two students. My partner received help and praise, while I received criticism. My partner ended up with a higher score than me. Points the professor said she wouldn't deduct from my partner were taken off my grade instead. These staged remarks were premeditated. After disputing the deductions, my points were eventually restored to 100%, but only after I texted Professor Bowman directly. In that same thread, she sent me a heart emoji with my name. I reported this to Dr. Bird, head of nursing. Her response was dismissive, calling it normal, and refusing to answer whether the same conduct would be acceptable from a male professor. This shows clear bias and refusal to investigate misconduct. Professor Bowman was coordinating with the head of nursing to bring my grade down. The head of nursing taught the lecture portion of this course, and I caught her deliberately manipulating my exam exam grades. Professors usually toss out 2 questions where students struggle the most. Each tossed question should give every student back 1 point worth 2 percentage points towards their grade. Instead, if I got the question right, I received no points back. This was only done to me, and other nursing professors followed suit. When I argued this, the head of nursing claimed students would be penalized if I received points back. That made no sense. This was disparate grading. For example, a white male and an African American female both scored 68% on an exam, needing 70% to pass. The professor tossed out 2 questions. The white male had both wrong, so he received 2 points back, raising his grade to 72% and passing. The African American female had both correct, so she stayed at 68% and failed. This is disparate grading. This is racial and gender discrimination. This is exactly what DePaul professors were doing to me. In another class, pharmacology, I formally complained to all parties about disparate grading. I questioned how I ended up below the class average despite answering correctly. My concerns were ignored. This is not education. This is harassment, mimicry of private family dialogue, sexual misconduct, racial discrimination, and institutional corruption. My dismissal was illegal. My complaint was sealed, but the truth is documented. Survivors demand accountability. The public must see this, and the FBI must investigate. This didn't start at DePaul. It started when I was a child. The public needs to know that many institutions, including the judicial system, know what is happening and are covering it up. Let's get this out. Let's get this out.